Jananam sukadham maranam karunam milanam maduram smaranam karunam kalavashadiha sakalam karunam samayadipate akhilam karunam. Namaskaram, namaskaram to everyone. I said namaskaram. That's good. When we utter the word yoga, there are too many misconceptions and interpretations as to what it is. Because unfortunately, even in the urban centers in India, the yoga that we know is a rebound from the American coast. So, somehow, yoga went to the West and got sheared off all the other aspects, and only the physical, skinny physicality of yoga came back. So what is yoga? As all of you should know, the word yoga means union, all this stuff. That's true. Fundamentally, what is it that this can do for me? Why should I invest my time and life in this process? In this process called what is being referred to as yoga. You must understand, in this culture, the science of yoga became so significant and became as important and as defining a factor as it has been in the past. Mainly because this will not be a popular thing to say, but we must know that this is a godless culture. Though we know the technologies of God-making, we know how to manufacture a god. This is the only culture which still remembers that we created God. Everywhere else, people started believing God created them. When I refer to the word God, I'm talking about a certain being or a certain person somewhere up there. Yoga became of supreme importance in the past, in this culture, because this is not a land of believers. This has always been a land of seekers. The basis of seeking is a true seeking can truly happen within you only when there are no assumptions or presumptions within you. Belief means concretization of assumptions that you have made, which may be culturally convenient, but not existentially, it has no relevance. So the science of yoga took precedence over everything else because to seek, you need tools. Without tools, if we try to do something, being the way we are as human beings, our rate of success with anything would be extremely poor. Today we dominate this world. Of all the other creatures, human beings are dominating this world mainly because of our ability to use tools. Otherwise, probably a colony of ants would have dominated us. Well, the most fierce animals that we can think of, tigers, lions, in terms of strength, an elephant, these were all creatures which terrorized humanity of the past. But today, these poor creatures have to be saved from us, simply because of our ability to use tools. We are dominating this planet because of our ability to use tools. There is a screw in this furniture. If I ask you to unscrew this, if you use your hands, you may lose your fingernails and bleed. You can use your teeth, you'll lose some of them, but the screw will not come. But if I give you a simple screwdriver, in a minute you will get it out. This is the power of a tool. So in this culture we realized the significance of tools, not only tools which can transform our external situation, tools which can transform our inner situation. So the many processes of classical yoga are just subjective tools to transform the inner realities of who we are, in body, in mind, in emotion, and on the level of our energies. And in the deeper dimension of our consciousness, we created tools as to how we can make this one happen the way we want. Because if you lived long enough, only some young people, you may be still romantic enough to believe somebody in your life will happen exactly the way you want them to be. You still have such hopes. But the older people, you ask them, they know nobody in your life will happen 100% the way you want them. They'll happen to some extent, never 100% your way. No human being on this planet will ever happen 100% your way. Not your husband, not your wife, not your children, not your parents, not your friends, not even your dog. These days they do their own thing. So they don't happen your way, that's not the problem. The problem with life is that this one is not happening my way, this is the big problem. So the tools that we employ to create external situations, they work to some extent. That will bring comfort, convenience, access, but it will not bring well-being. If well-being has to happen, we need tools to transform our interiority. The different systems of classical yoga are just these tools, offered on various levels. But unfortunately, though these tools are subjective in nature, because we today have come to this place in this world that unless we can physically prove it, it is not science. My experience is not good enough, what's happening within me is not good enough. A meter has to tell me that what I'm doing is right. Because of that, across the world today, we are trying to shear yoga off all subjectivity and make it into a very physical thing. It still works, fortunately, but that's not the best way to use it. We must understand, in this culture, the only thing that you have worshipped is yoga. In the sense, who are the people that you worship? Well, your Shiva, your Rama, your Krishna, the biggest icons in the country. Well, Shiva is referred to as the Adi Yogi. He's always seen as a yogi. The other two might have been kings or kingmakers. They may not look like your standard template of a yogi. At least, they don't fit into the calendar art as a yogi. They got kingdoms, they got crowns, they got wives. They don't look like your standard template of a yogi. But what is it that you worship about them? I want you to look at this with some sense of openness. When you perform action in your life, any kind of action, you want to be successful. Is that so? See, now we must decide who is the yogi here. If you're going to sit like this and stare at me, I can sit here without moving my eyeballs for the next hour. You know, I have a long practice. Don't try this with me. When I ask you a question, you can talk to me, all right? Now, the purpose of any action that you perform, is it success or failure? Even if you do the smallest thing, you want it to succeed or no? I'm saying things, something menial, something insignificant. Like you blew your nose into your tissue paper and you want to throw it into the bin. You want it to go in or out? Yes, because the the purpose of any action is success. We don't want to perform action which doesn't succeed. Small or big, it doesn't matter. Significant or insignificant, it doesn't matter. When we do something, we want it to succeed. Success in every way is the sweetest thing in your life, isn't it so? The ideas of success may have gotten skewed up in the world, that's different. But when you perform an action, you want it to be successful. That's the nature. But now you look at the people whom you worship. Rama, please, the devotees, please listen to me carefully, don't get angry with me. He is born as a rightful king to a major kingdom of the time, but he loses his kingdom for some reason and goes into the jungle. There he is, not frustrated, not angry, simply there he is making a life out of the jungle. Then, you know, these LTT people come and kidnap his wife. I shouldn't say this, Karthikeyan is here. Then he becomes despondent, he loves his wife, so he goes in search of her, goes down, has a bloody battle down there in Sri Lanka, then burns down the entire city, then recovers his wife, political pressures, so he has to put her through the fire test, which he doesn't want to do. Then he brings her back, makes her his queen, again political problems. So again sends her back to the jungle and she's pregnant. Then she delivers children, no sonogram was done, so he does not know whether it's boys or girls, he does not know it's one or two, but she delivers two boys in the jungle. These boys grow up in the jungle, king's children, but they grow up in the jungle. Then unknowingly, he fights a battle with his own children. Then she dies in the forest. You call this a successful life? I'm asking you, no. But we worship him. We worship him not because of his success in the world. We worship him because it doesn't matter what kind of situations life threw at him, he managed who he is perfectly well. He did not become vengeful, he did not become bitter, he did not become depressed. He kept himself as he was. As he would be on the throne, so he was in the jungle, so he was in the battle, so he was in the time of peace. So he was when he lost his wife, so he was when he battled with his children. He maintained who he is without losing it. So we see him as a yogi and we worship him. We worship him not because of his physical success, we worship him because within himself he is a huge success. Because this has been our value system, because the quality of our lives is not determined by what we have around us, but how we are right now within us. You tell me right now, the quality of your life, is it decided by what kind of clothes you're wearing, or what kind of car you parked outside, what kind of home you live in, or how joyful you are right now? Which decides the quality of your life? So, this is what we have always valued as success, because what life throws at you is not always in your hands. You don't know where the trap is. See, right here, you don't know where the trap was. But what life throws at you is not your choice. What you make out of it is 100% your choice. If you're able to exercise this choice till the moment of your death, no matter what life throws at you, you can exercise this choice. How to respond to it, what to make out of it is entirely in your hands. You become worthy of worship. This is why Ramas, Krishnas and Shivas have become worthy of worship, not because of their super success in their life. They didn't succeed. Neither Krishna succeeded, I want you to know. His entire life was committed to bring political process and spiritual process together. He strived hard, he travelled extensively, tried to deal with all kinds of idiots and brutes. Yes, on a daily basis. You have to if you want to do something in the world. But in the end, the entire process ends up in a colossal, disastrous war. His own people get all crazy and he gets killed by that. But we worship him because no matter what happened, he went through it joyfully, untouched. Life can do whatever it wants, but what you do with it is entirely yours. If you exercise this, you are in yoga. The tools of yoga are towards this. It may throw all kinds of traps at you, but everything, you make it into your well-being. That means you are using the tools of yoga. Whether it is in terms of health, physical health, mental health, emotional health or spiritual health. If you are using the necessary tools to create this within yourself, that means you're in yoga. Because essentially this is a tool to go through the world untouched. The simple process of living. What is… please don't torture the child. The simple process of living, just to earn a living, eat, sleep, reproduce and die one day. How much fuss? What else… what else is the most of the population doing? Just this? Just to survive, earn a living, wish to reproduce, otherwise you can keep quiet. But how much fuss? How many ways human beings are getting twisted? I don't know to what extent you're exposed to human suffering. Every day I'm meeting thousands and thousands of people. What I see is the variety of suffering that human beings have invented is too phenomenal. You give them anything, they're capable of suffering it. You give them nothing, they'll make enormous suffering out of it. They are poor, they suffer the poverty. Make them rich, suffer the taxes. Uneducated, they suffer lack of access. You put them to school, endless suffering. Not married, they suffer that. Get them married, I won't say anything, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. You are the ones, I didn't say anything. No children, they suffer that. Give them children, daily suffering. Show me one thing that human beings are not suffering. Now they will conclude, life is suffering. Life is not suffering. Because what is it that you're suffering? You're capable of suffering something that happened 10 years ago, yes? Yes, yes, yes? Oh, experts, lots of experts And you're capable of suffering what may happen day after tomorrow already. So I want you to understand, you are not suffering life. You are suffering two fundamental faculties which set human beings apart from every other creature, which is called memory and imagination. You're suffering your memory, you're suffering your imagination. You're not suffering life. These are two things that set us apart from every other creature on this planet. We have an exquisite memory of every experience that has happened in our lives, and we have an exquisite imagination to project into the future and make attempts to create that imagination. But these are the two things you're suffering. If you're suffering yesterday and tomorrow, it does not mean you're suffering life, you're suffering your memory and your imagination. Memory does not mean just your conscious memory. In yoga, we look at human memory as 8 different dimensions. I don't want to go into all the classifications, but right now, is it true that if you are a man and you eat a mango, I'm sorry, it's a bit too early I think for mangoes. If you eat a mango, this mango goes inside in 2 hours' time, it becomes a man, yes? That's why it's called a mango. If you're a woman, you eat this mango, in 2 hours' time it goes inside and becomes a woman, yes or no? Only 2 ladies are agreeing with me. Yes or no? If a cow eats a mango, the mango becomes a cow. Very smart mango. What is it that's doing this? It is just that there is a certain volume of evolutionary memory in this. Whatever you put into this is what it will become. Because if you eat dog food, you will not become a dog. Or if the dog eats your food, it'll not become you. Because there is an evolutionary memory which ensures whatever goes inside, this is what happens to this. And there's a genetic memory. If you eat somebody else's food, your nose will not change your shape like them. This will be only like this, because it takes on this form only because there is a genetic memory. There are various levels of unconscious memory, subconscious memory, and of course you have your conscious memory. Your suffering may not be just on the level of conscious memory, unconscious levels of memory may be causing suffering to you. See, people come to me and say, Sadhguru, my husband, my wife, she's impossible, my mother-in-law, no words, Sadhguru. My boss, unthinkable he is. I cannot believe how he evolved into a human being. Then I tell them, you come to the yoga center, I will make sure your husband, your wife, your boss, your mother-in-law, nobody has entry here, just you. I'll give you a nice place to stay, I'll give you good food to eat. Nothing to do. Just be joyful, that's all. I'll make random checks on you. When I check on you, you must be joyful. If you're miserable, I don't believe in feeding misery. There's no point, isn't it? What is the point feeding misery, I'm asking? Now you leave them for 24 hours in one place, oh, they will twist themselves out into all kinds of things. When you're alone, if you're miserable, obviously you're in bad company, isn't it? So, yoga is the tool to fix this one, because your experience of life is determined by this one, not somebody else. If you fix this one, suddenly being here can be an ecstatic process. Just existence can become absolutely ecstatic. When I say ecstatic, it doesn't mean some flight of something. No, it is a certain level of pleasantness. In language, the highest level of pleasantness we can call it as blissfulness or ecstasy. The peak of human experience, generally in English language, is described as ecstasy. I'm saying you can be in the peak of your experience. If your body becomes pleasant, we call this health. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it pleasure. If your mind becomes pleasant, we call it peace. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it joy. If your emotions become pleasant, we call this love. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it compassion. If your very life energies become pleasant, we call this blissfulness. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it ecstasy. If your surroundings become pleasant, we call it success. Now, only creating your surroundings into a state of pleasantness is a challenge because it involves many people. If we want to make this place pleasant, we need all your cooperation, otherwise it's not possible. In some way we must be able to harness everyone's mind, emotion and behavior, then only we can create a pleasant place around us. But to create pleasantness within this, it's just you and you alone. This you must be able to do, isn't it? At least what happens within you must happen your way, that's all I'm asking. Yes or no? The world may not happen your way, but if this happens your way, how would you keep it? Blissful or miserable? Please make a choice, I'm going to bless you right now. For yourself, the choice is always the highest level of pleasantness. What you want for your neighbor may be debatable, but what you want for yourself is crystal clear. But why is this not happening? This is not happening simply because you have not found the appropriate tools. This is the business of yoga, to give you the right kind of tools to create health, to create well-being, to create a joyful way of existence, to make the experience of life truly ecstatic. These are the tools, yoga is the tools for this purpose. We do not know whether you will climb Mount Everest or not. You may not have the legs or the lungs. I do not know whether you will run faster than Mr. Bolt or not. I do not know whether you will become the richest man in the world or not. I do not know whether you will become the most beautiful woman in the world or not. But this must happen, that your experience of life on this planet is pleasant. This much you deserve and this much must happen to every human being. This is where yoga becomes significant, because this is the tools, entire technology to ensure the experience of every human being on this planet is pleasant, no matter what is happening around us. because what is happening around us, we can only make it happen to a certain extent. You cannot control it 100%. But I'll ask you a simple question. Let's say right now you're feeling wonderful. If I come and meet you at this moment when you're feeling wonderful, I'm sure you will be wonderful to me. I'm asking. Good. But another moment you're feeling frustrated, unhappy, miserable about something, if I come and meet you, you could be nasty. Sorry. This is true with every human being, isn't it? If you want a pleasant world, the first and foremost thing that we need to do is, this one person is pleasant, irrespective of what the world is doing. This is what we have always worshipped as Krishna, Rama, Shiva, everything, not because of their physical success. We always worship this because irrespective of what the world was doing to them, they remain pleasant. But today, even the so-called spiritual leaders are going about propagating peace is the highest goal of life, peace of mind. I'll ask you a simple question. Maybe you already had your breakfast. So, let's say, when you have lunch today, to enjoy your lunch, even if you're not ecstatic, at least you must be peaceful. Yes or no? To enjoy the place that you work and the people that you work with, even if you're not blissful, at least you must be peaceful. To enjoy your family, to enjoy a walk on the street, at least you must be peaceful. So I'm asking you, is peace the ultimate goal of life, or is it the most fundamental requirement? Most fundamental requirement. But unfortunately, we've raised it to heaven. If you say peace, people say divine peace. If you say love, people say divine love. If you say bliss, people say divine bliss. These are all human things exported to heaven. I was to speak at Tel Aviv a couple of years ago. I'm flying in from Atlanta. I'm to land there in the morning and speak 6:30 in the evening. But because of some flight delays, I land up there at 6 in the evening. So I'm quickly changing in the airport to get there on time, because in these 33 years, I have not been late to a single appointment in my life. No. It's not something to clap. Everybody is supposed to be where they're supposed to be at a given time. Unfortunately, it's become a great virtue. Then I'm famished because I'm traveling an American airline and there's nothing edible on the plane. So I get to the destination, the venue, and to my joy, I find the venue is a very fine restaurant. I'm speaking in a restaurant. I thought, this is great, life can't get better and I'm so hungry. Restaurant is the best place to go. Then people are greeting me and one man comes and says, "Shalom." I ask him, what does it mean? He says, "This is the highest way of greeting." I said, "That's your opinion. What does it mean?" He says, "No, really, this is the highest way of greeting." All right, what does the word mean? He says, "This means peace." Then I tell him, see, why would peace be the highest way of greeting unless you're born in Middle East? In South India, somebody comes up to me in the morning and says, "Peace." I'll say, "What's wrong with you?" So I'm saying, if you don't have the necessary tools, even unscrewing a simple screw becomes a tremendous task. If you don't have the necessary tools for your subjectivity, something as simple, if you feed your dog well, he sleeps peacefully. Yes? Something that simple has risen to heaven simply because people do not have the necessary tools. What I see is today, as the human intellect sparks, as it is today, more people on this planet can think for themselves than ever before. Once this happens, I see in the next probably 50 to 70 years' time, a time will come when all the solutions in heaven will collapse. Because even if God comes and says something to you, unless it makes logical sense to you, you're not going to do it. Already you're becoming like this, but still you're little afraid, you're still God-fearing. But in another 25 to 50 years, you will see nobody in this world is willing to do anything unless it makes sense to them. When this happens, when heavens collapse, heaven will collapse, but human longing to experience something more will not go away. I predict in another 80 years' time or 100 years' time, if we don't do a very serious campaign to bring tools of inner well-being for every human being on this planet, 90% of the population will turn to drink and drugs. This is why yoga is of phenomenal significance for the coming generations. Thank you very much. I think I've run out of my time. Is it okay? Thank you. Doctor? Nugget? It's okay? Thank you.
Etana mamara, etana kogile, etana mamara, etana kogile.